Everyone always tells you that you're the only one that can do this or that role right, and if you say no, they go to somebody else and tell them that they're the only one that can do it right. But when they're talking to you, you're always the best actor of your generation. I tend to think you're fearless when you recognize why you should be scared of things, but do them anyway. I do like taking stuff seriously that a lot of people look at as nonsense. I enjoy the insanity of that. And I like the commitment that is needed for that. I will never say never, but I will say never to doing the more typical romantic comedies. You know, unless I'm getting audited and I'm on the street and I desperately need some dough and that's the only thing that I'm getting. All of the muscles were gone, so that was a real tough time of rebuilding all of that. But you have a deadline, you have an obligation. You've said that you will commit to this part, and I just can't live with myself for not really giving it as much as I can. I have this theory that, depending on your attitude, your life doesn't have to become this ridiculous charade that it seems so many people end up living. It's not who I am underneath but what I do that defines me. I have a fear of being boring. I never want to feel that I'm playing it safe. I started my career without fans. There are occasions when I've pretended to be in a firefight, and then there are people who have really been in a firefight. Clearly it's absolutely ridiculous, and even disrespectful, to suggest that I understand what that is. I never want to turn something down because I'm afraid to do it, because of some idea of image or whatever. That was never anything I set out to do. In fact, the opposite. I always want to confuse people in terms of any kind of image and be unpredictable in any kind of movie I make. It's about pursuing it rather than waiting to see what comes along. That's partly because I found myself getting typecast, as everyone does unless they pursue roles that are very different from what they've done before. One of the places where we lived when I was growing up had this big wood out the back. And starting when I was about 8, I used to enjoy just walking alone through the wood late. 11 p.m. midnight. Later. I think trying too hard to be sexy is the worst thing in the world a woman can do. The only thing that I'm obsessed with is sleeping, and actually, it is more than an obsession, it is a pleasure. There are occasions when I've pretended to be in a firefight, and then there are people who have really been in a firefight. Clearly it's absolutely ridiculous, and even disrespectful, to suggest that I understand what that is. It's got to do with putting yourself in other people's shoes and seeing how far you can come to truly understand them. I like the empathy that comes from acting. I find what I do for a living really funny. I mean, acting is kind of a hilarious thing for a grown man to call a job. If I'm not working, I really have nothing to do with it. I'm not hanging out and mixing with film people. Not that I have anything against film people, they're some of the best people around and some of the worst people around, just like in any business. They just gesticulate a little bit more. I've had some painful experiences in my life, but I feel like I'm trivializing them by using them for a scene in a movie. I don't want to do that. It just makes me feel kind of dirty for having done that.